Hey, it's Ryan. Welcome to the Investor Minded Framework. This is phase one, just talking about whether or not real estate is right for you. So, I've got a couple topics to cover in this video: why invest in real estate, stocks versus rentals, and how they compare and contrast, active versus passive investing, time commitment, risk and reward, and also the common myths when it comes to investing in real estate. My goal is to help you buy real estate that not only pays for itself, but also pays you. You've dedicated all the time, energy to not only make the income to invest in that real estate, but also the time and energy to maintain that real estate. And I'd like to reduce any of the risk that comes along with that as well. So, where I started is I invested in the greater Lafayette, Indiana area, buying a duplex side by side, and it was 3 bed, 1 bath on each side. I repeated that process a few years later, buying another duplex. It was a side by side. This one had garages, and that was something that I thought was really beneficial. One of the things that I always want to instill upon people is the reason why you can invest in real estate and how it can benefit you. Myself, both houses that I lived in, they would be able to pay for themselves and also reduce or cover my housing cost over time. The first one actually would have covered my housing costs, and that's how I ran the numbers when actually buying it. Of course, I bought it during a market where it was COVID, and so interest rates were very favorable, and nobody really wanted to buy, but a lot of people wanted to sell. So that was a good opportunity. I considered stocks versus rentals when I first invested in that. I was actually investing in stocks to try to get some appreciation that I could then invest into real estate. So I considered, okay, 8 to 12% is the average return stock market. That's nothing new. A lot of people talk about that. But I wanted to consider how much better of a return I could get by buying real estate that not only pays for itself, but also pays me to buy it. Because the goal with that is not only does it pay you to buy it, but you can also use real estate to then buy more real estate. So that is the long-term approach to buying real estate. It's an asset that just continues to appreciate in value and also compound over time. So no matter what, I would just say that I would take rentals over stocks any day of the week, as long as it's the right deal. I won't discount stocks because it is where I keep that dry powder, the ammunition to be able to help continue to invest in real estate. So I wouldn't discount either one. I'd say they're pretty level playing field, but one of them I do put a lot more weight on myself, and that is going to be those the good real estate. There's a lot of tax advantages to that as well. Active versus passive investing is also something that I considered. I didn't want to create another job out of it. Right now, I am a lot more active than maybe I would like to be, but at the same time, I generally only have maybe 1 or 2 calls every month. That's every month when it comes to 2 rentals, and that's 3 units under management, my own management. Building systems and processes is something we'll probably go over later on, but that was something that I learned that helped save me a lot of time and build that more passive investing style rather than what it could be, which is active. Of course, you have that option to decide whether or not you want it to be passive or active, who you want to pay to manage it, but be mindful. Even if you hire a property manager, you're likely going to be managing that manager. That can be a valuable exercise to get to know how to manage a property manager, but just be mindful of that. And then time commitment. There is going to be a lot of time commitment to getting started with the process. You have to understand that you have to trust the process, because as you trust the process and learn the process, it will get easier over time. You're going to take those skills that you learned on that first deal, be able to compound them into the next deal. Everybody says the second deal is always easier than the first. And I would totally agree. The second deal is a lot easier than the first. There were so many things I was able to learn to take on maybe even a slightly more risky deal the second time with less information available, just because I knew what to look for and I was able to find that information. So that is kind of time commitment. And then also the risk reward side of things. That's something that can change depending on the deal. You may have some deals where you're going to have a little bit more risk, but you always want to make sure that that reward is an outsized return in comparison to the risk. You should not be taking more risk than the reward you get. Now, be mindful, most properties aren't going to be able to pay you in year one. Now, I've talked about this in previous videos. Usually, you're not going to expect to be able to even touch the cash flow until year five. And even then, a lot of investors may take the approach that you shouldn't touch it until, say, year 30, for example, if it's a 30-year mortgage and it's paid off. That's probably your best approach. But at the same time, everybody's different. Everybody approaches it with a different risk tolerance. So the way that I've always looked at it is I want to make sure that I allow that property to pay itself down, but I also want that cash flow to build up on the side so that I can continue to invest that and buy other real estate too. A lot of common myths are that real estate is expensive. I can't buy real estate in my area. Real estate is a bad investment. It's high risk. It's only going to be an expense. All those things I found that I was able to put to rest when I just bought the first property. I was amazed because I was able to buy in an area where a lot of people I worked alongside, I saw every day, were buying in areas outside of the location I was analyzing due to cost. But I was able to find a property that not only made sense to acquire, but it made me money by acquiring it because of the return that it was able to achieve. It reduced my housing cost, and it got to the point where if both units are rented out, it would cash flow in a quite a healthy way. So those are some of the main phases that you should go through when it comes to deciding whether or not real estate's right for you. If you decide it's right for you, then I'd say you're good to go on to the next step of the path.